also be touching on such essays as far as abandonment, single parenting, and unwed mothers. So stay tuned for those shows. I'll be turning those into some shows for the spirituality series. I'll be right back with EDU. So stay tuned. Don't touch that dial now.
It's not far to Never Never Land. Just a dream in the wind to carry me. It's not far. It's not far to Never Never Land. Just a dream in the wind to carry me. It's not far. Sailing takes me away to where I've always heard it could be. Heard it could be. Just a dream in the wind to carry me. Soon I will be free. Soon I will be free. I hear the door creak soon as I close my eyes. Feeling his presence comes as no surprise. No longer filled with dread, I think I'm dead inside. He's always after me, seems I'm his favorite ride. Closing my eyes, trying to think happy thoughts of separating from my body, but my soul is caught. Dreaming of sailing, yearning to float away. Thinking of freedom, cause I don't wanna stay. It's not far to Never Never Land. No reason to pretend. And if the wind is right, you can find a joy of innocence again. But what is innocence is something I've never had. He's been sexing on me since I was a little lass. And closing my eyes won't stop me from feeling. His hand covering my mouth won't stop me from squealing. But nobody hears me, I disappear in this room. He tells me close my mouth, it'll be over with soon. Believe me. So what is my purpose? Why am I alive? Does anyone care that I'm dying inside? Oh, but to go away, far, far away, sailing amongst the stars, I'd be gone to stay. It's not far to Never Never Land. It's not far. It's not far to Never Never Land. It's not far. Takes me away to where I've always heard it could be. Heard it could be. Just a dream in the wind to carry me. Soon I will be free. Soon I will be free. Sailing takes me away to where I've always heard it could be. Heard it could be. Just a dream in the wind to carry me. Soon I will be free. Soon I will be free.
School is in. School is definitely in, y'all. You know what I'm saying? That was Miss Shelley, y'all sailing. You can catch her, you know what I'm saying, all over, you know what I'm saying, especially on Embassy Radio. So check her out, you know what I'm saying. Definitely a hot song. And I think it went with this, what I'm finna read. So especially with the Hagar topic. And it's from Brewster Baptist Church. By the author is told you I'm doing two things at once. I'm doing hair and I'm doing this. Michael Kemp, you know what I'm saying? So it says, Hagar, when you've been mistreated. For the next 5 weeks, we're doing a series in worship and in small groups on finding God in unexpected places. There are some places we kind of expect to find God, like in a worship service, reading the Bible in our personal devotional time, when we're serving others for God's glory and to share the love of Jesus. There are other times when we may not be expecting God to speak to us or to touch our lives. Often it's when we're down, when we've been mistreated, when we're tired and can't sleep, when we have to start over in life because something bad has happened, when we're sick or just can't seem to get over a chronic physical challenge, These are just some of the circumstances that we don't necessarily anticipate turning into life-changing encounters with God. But I want to suggest that it's precisely in tough times such as these that God may speak to us or show up in ways that we didn't anticipate and lead us to deeper faith, stronger hope, and greater love. You can also watch this podcast from YouTube as well. It's called Hagar, When You've Been Mistreated. So it's the same one. So if you go to www.brewster-church.org/Hagar-when-you've-been-mistreated/ it comes right up, and then you can follow the podcast on YouTube. So in the Bible, and perhaps in many of our lives, we can make the argument that God seems to show up more often in the middle of adversity than in prosperity, in part because in times of adversity, when we haven't been able to make it our own, we may be more open to the Lord than in times of prosperity when we don't think we need any help. We're beginning our series by talking about a woman in the book of Genesis named Hagar. One of the things I do when I work on a sermon about a person is use my imagination and think, if this character had a theme song, what would it be? When I did that with Hagar, a song came to me almost immediately. When I was middle school age, one singer I liked was Linda Ronstadt. She had a great voice. One of her biggest hits was written by Phil Everly, and it was called When Will I Be Loved? The Everly Brothers version of the song went to number 8 in 1960, but Linda Ronstadt's version was released in 1975, which was one of the biggest hits of that year. Carrie Underwood sang it during the 4th season of American Idol in 2005, and it's been covered well by Martina McBride. The lyrics are in part, I've been cheated, mistreated, when will I be loved? I've been pushed down, I've been pushed round, when will I be loved? I've been made blue, I've been lied to, when will I be loved? Oh, I've been cheated, been mistreated, when will I be loved? When will I be loved? Tell me, when will I be loved? That's Hagar's theme song. She's been mistreated, pushed down, pushed round, made blue. When would she be loved? You've already heard the first part of her story from Genesis 16, 1 through 15, and you should know now that after Hagar had Ishmael and he was growing through childhood, then Sarah finally ended up getting pregnant and giving birth to Isaac. Read Genesis 21, 8 through 21. The child grew and was weaned. And Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. But Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, playing with her son Isaac. So she said to Abraham, cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of the slave woman shall not inherit along with my son Isaac. The matter was very distressing to Abraham on account of his son. But God said to Abraham, do not be distressed because of the boy and because of your slave woman. Whatever Sarah says to you, do as she tells you, for it is through Isaac that offspring shall be named for you. As for the son of the slave woman, I will make a nation of him also, because he is your offspring. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder along with the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered about in the wilderness of Beersheba. When the water in the skin was gone, she cast the child under one of the bushes. Then she went and sat down opposite him a good way off, about the distance of a bow shot. For she said, do not let me look on the death of the child. And as she sat opposite him, she lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the boy, And the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What troubles you, Hagar? Do not be afraid, for God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Come, lift up the boy and hold him fast with your hand, for I will make him a great nation of him." Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. She went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. God was with the boy, and he grew up. He lived in the wilderness and became an expert with the bow. He lived in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother got a wife for him from the land of Egypt. Abraham and Sarah are two of the most important people in the Bible because God chooses to make a covenant with them. In Genesis 12:1-3, God told them to set out on a journey of faith and promised to make a great a nation of them and be with them. Many years passed, however, without Sarah being able to have child, and by the time of the two scriptures we've heard today, Sarah decides to take matters into her own hands rather than continue to trust God and being obedient to God's will. It sounds a little bit like a soap opera. Sarah tells Abraham to sleep with her Egyptian slave Hagar so she could produce an heir for them. This kind of surrogate pregnancy was not uncommon in that part of the world at that time. Hagar quickly gets pregnant. It's tough to say whether she really mistreated Sarah or if Sarah felt angry watching the slave girl walking around with a baby growing inside her, and the fact that she was going to bear a child to the leader of the clan surely must have elevated Hagar's status in the eyes of everyone else and may have improved her living situation. Sarah gets mad and treats Hagar badly. Sarah and Abraham argue, and he, in a kind of cowardly way, says, "She's your servant. Do what you want with her." Hagar flees into the wilderness to escape her abusive situation. What do you think was going through her mind? Try to imagine, as difficult as it was, what it would be like to be a slave, to be the property of another person who controls your life and holds the power of life and death over you. It's very hard for us to fathom the total lack of freedom, the powerlessness and hopelessness of being a slave. Hagar had to sleep with someone much older than she was, who she didn't love and who owned her, and she gets pregnant. Then she gets mistreated by Sarah and she runs away. Imagine being young, pregnant, alone in the desert as a runaway slave. That's a pretty rough situation. Hagar followed the road to Shur, which was one of the trade routes passing through the Sinai Peninsula. Alone and unaided, it was a heroic effort and a tribute to her tenacity that she got as far as she did. The country is intimidating. Eroded hills like bare bones in the arid landscape, the ground swept by constant wind. Despite all this, Hagar very nearly made it back to Egypt. But eventually, exhausted, she stopped at a spring of water in the wilderness of Shur. Worn down and stressed out, I doubt Hagar was thinking she was about to have a remarkable spiritual experience that would change her life. Most of us, when we're tired, stressed, and exhausted, aren't necessarily thinking, this is a time when I'm going to have a great spiritual experience. Some of us, if we're confessing, might acknowledge using God's name in those situations, but it might not always be in the form of a prayer. I know, because I've done it. At this moment of desperation and need, God shows up. The extremity of our situation may be God's opportunity to connect with us. The angel of the Lord spoke to Hagar, telling her to return to Sarah and have her baby among the Hebrews. It would be a special child, a child with a great future. How stunning this must have been for Hagar. Not only the news about the destiny of her child, but the fact that in her moment of dire need, she had the assurance that God saw her. What difference would it make to us to know in our moments of despair and need that God sees us and we're truly not alone? How would that knowledge help you face an uncertain future? Inspired by this experience, Hagar retraced her steps and returned to Abraham's tribe and to Sarah. Hagar was able to return because she now had a purpose in life, to bear a child who had an important destiny and to raise that child who would have descendants without number. Don't you love a happy ending? Unfortunately, that's not the way the story ended. Once Sarah gives birth to Isaac, she wants Hagar and Ishmael permanently banished so that there is no competition for her child. Abraham has come to love his first son, but God assures him Isaac is the one through whom his offspring will come. But God promises also to make a nation of Ishmael also. So once again, Hagar heads off into the wilderness with only some bread and water almost a death sentence. When the